to a new episode of Books and Beyond from the Winter Park Library, recorded live in the recording studio at the library in beautiful Winter Park, Florida. In Books and Beyond, we have conversations with writers, musicians, artists, presenters, and other contributors. Most of our guests have appeared live at the Winter Park Library or will be presenting soon. We hope you'll subscribe to the Books and Beyond podcast and that you'll stay up to date with library goings-on at winterparklibrary.org/events. That's winterparklibrary.org/events. I'm Michael Werner, and I'll be your host for our interviews. Enjoy the show. Hello out there, library patrons, readers, and smart people everywhere. This is Michael Werner, your host for the Winter Park Library's now almost world-famous Books and Beyond podcast. We're here today with a special episode. We're going to be talking about Americans in the Holocaust, a special exhibit that is traveling around the country. We'll be talking more about that in a minute, but let me set the stage here. And I think this is the first time we have three guests today. We'll do them in order. They're not all here present at the moment, but we'll do them back to back. We're going to be starting off with Melissa Schneider, who's here with me right now. She's the executive director here at the library. Good morning, Melissa.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Great to have you. And then after Melissa, we're going to be visited by Dr. Ruth Edwards, who is the education director here at the library, and Stephen Poynor, who is with the Holocaust Memorial Center here in Central Florida in Maitland. But we're here today to talk about this special exhibit that is traveling around the country from the U.S. Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C., and it's a special event. We're going to talk about why it came here and everything else in just a moment, so just trying to set the stage. So I've got some questions for you, Melissa, so do you mind if I just kind of throw those out there?
Let's dive in.
All right, let's dive in. I was going to ask you first to talk about what is this thing? What is the Americans in the Holocaust Traveling Exhibit? And that was my first question to you. But then I was rereading something that you had sent out to library patrons a few weeks ago. And I thought I would just, if you don't mind, I'll just read the beginning of that letter that
Definitely.
you sent. Because I thought it was really good. So here's the letter from Melissa from a couple weeks ago. Winter Park Library is honored to be one of just 50 libraries nationwide and the only one in Florida selected to host the Americans in the Holocaust on view July 28th to September 2nd, 2025. It's created by the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum. This powerful exhibit examines the motives, pressures, and fears that shaped Americans' responses to Nazism, war, and genocide in Europe during the 1930s and 40s. It challenges the common assumption that Americans knew little and did nothing, and instead invites visitors to consider how factors like the Great Depression and anti-Semitism influence both national policy and personal choices. Running alongside this exhibit is a compelling program series developed in partnership with the Holocaust Memorial Resource and Education Center of Florida. That's the center that I mentioned that's in Maitland. Through personal testimony, historical context, and expert-led discussions, these programs encourage reflection on America's role during the Holocaust and what that history asks of us today. This exhibit comes at a particularly meaningful moment as we mark 140 years of service in the Winter Park community. That's the library's 140 years of service. As we reflect on our legacy, we remain focused on the role of the library as a place where history is preserved and community is strengthened. So I thought I'd stop right there. That was the letter that Melissa sent out, the first part of the letter that she sent out, sort of to set the stage. So again, thanks for being here, Melissa. And gosh, thanks for doing everything that you could, as the leader of the library to help get this exhibit here. That's amazing.
It's exciting. We've been talking about this for almost 2 years now. We applied for this exhibit about 2 years ago, and over a year ago went up to Washington, D.C. to the Holocaust Museum for training, since we were selected as a host site, and we got to see this traveling exhibit is based on an exhibit in the museum. And it's incredible to see that in tandem with the traveling exhibit and just examine history through the lens of American media and politics and public opinion and how it was shaped in the 30s and 40s. And I think it's going to be really eye-opening for a lot of people.
Oh, it is. I just recently had exposure to one episode that took place during that time period. It was about the voyage of the St. Louis, and that's part of that whole episode, and it was just very impactful to me.
Absolutely. There's some ties to Central Florida that I didn't know. I've grown up here. I'm a third generation Central Floridian, and in my Holocaust education, or my family's Holocaust education, didn't really realize the local tie and some of those things that we're going to be learning about during this exhibit, and how Florida was impacted, or what Florida knew.
Yeah, and I think it's very impressive that, as we said earlier, that the Winter Park Library was the only library in Florida that's hosting this exhibit. How did that come about? I mean,
it is. There's space requirements and programmatic requirements, and we're so blessed to be in the facility that we are in, because we have such a great space to bring the community in, to host large crowds, to accommodate this exhibit. We have great educational partners here in Central Florida, and great philanthropic supporters who want to make this a wonderful experience for our community. And so all of those things came together and piqued the interest when we were applying for this exhibit, and led us to be selected as one of the host sites.
Well, the Winter Park Library has a tremendous tradition of educating local members and local people in the community. How does this exhibit continue that legacy? Hosting this exhibit continue that legacy?
That's a great question, and you mentioned this just leading off, that education is really at the heart of everything we do, and this is our 140th year. And so when we were road mapping what this year was going to look like for us, we set some pretty strong goals, some big goals, to bring in even more people, to bring in something at the national level for our community to experience. And so this ties into that. This anniversary year is a capstone year for us. The library is a place where people come to learn, to ask questions, and to engage in dialogue. And so we feel that hosting this exhibit is a continuation of that. It's bringing a national conversation to our community. We hope it will prompt visitors of all ages to think critically and reflect on the past, and consider how we show up as informed citizens today. And so both the exhibit and the programs we've planned around this, through our community partnerships, and then even through a post-event reflection series that we're starting to plan, we're hoping that this exhibit is a shared learning experience for people who use the library and know what we do, and for people who are going to come in for the first time and experience it.
Mm-hmm. And so it just gives me a chance to give my speech my pitch that I normally include on every episode of the podcast. The Winter Park Library is such a wonderful resource, and anybody who hasn't been here in a while, I really, really encourage you, as I know Melissa does, to come in and check things out. It's way much more than books, and that's the reason we have this name of our podcast, the Books and Beyond podcast. And one of the best ways to introduce yourself to the library, if you haven't been here for a while, is to check out the list of events going on. So you can do that at winterparklibrary.org/events. And by the way, that's where you would come, I believe, to sign up for any of the Americans in the Holocaust exhibit activities. Mm-hmm. Because in addition to the exhibit itself, there's a bunch of, which we're going to be talking about more with Dr. Edwards and Stephen Poynor in a few minutes, where you can come and participate in various events during that 5-6 week period.
Definitely. It's going to be an amazing lineup. We've started to put some of that out, and again, you're going to be talking more about that later today. But I think people will be able to come to at least one, if not all, of the events, and walk away with something that they didn't know before, in tandem with just seeing the exhibit and reflecting on that and what it means.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't wait. I mean, I've signed up for several already, and I'm really excited. And I know a lot of the you're expecting a large crowd for many of the events.
We are,
so
yeah.
You have space next door at the event center.
3 of the events that we've planned, we're anticipating large turnouts, and that's also in tandem with some of the partners who are making it possible. But we'll be in the event center for some of those, which will give even more people a chance to come in and learn and grow.
Speaking of that, it's a nice segue to my really last question before Dr. Edwards joins us. Who's making this event possible, or who are some of the people making this event possible? Yeah,
absolutely. You mentioned when you led off that the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum with the American Library Association developed this exhibit. And as you said, we're the only stop in Florida on the national tour. And then locally, the opportunity to bring these programs together to support the exhibit has been made possible through some amazing partners. So we have Advent Health, the Ginsburg Family Foundation, the Central Florida Pledge, David and Judy Albertson, Dr. Michael Perlman, the Zimmerman Family Foundation, and many other supporters who are coming together to make this possible. And it's very affirming. Their belief in the power of what we do and the power of education and dialogue is making it possible for us to bring this to our community. And we couldn't do it without them.
Well, it's wonderful to have them, and it's wonderful to have you with us here. So thanks for stopping by. And we'll be joined very shortly here by Dr. Ruth Edwards, the Director of Education here at the library, and Stephen Poynor from the Maitland Holocaust Center.
Thank you, Michael. Great to be here.
Yeah, thanks for stopping by.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for that, Melissa. That was very, very enlightening. And with that being said, we have two additional guests who have just come into the studio here to give us some more information about what's happening this summer with the Holocaust Center. And we have here Dr. Ruth Edwards, and we have Stephen Poynor from the Holocaust Center. Ruth, could you start off, just give us a little background, who you are and why you're here and what you've been up to?
I am Director of Education here at the library,
Okay.
and I have been with my team launching our summer, so kicked off May 31st, and we're in full swing with Summer Reading Challenge and preparing for this exhibit, which comes in at the end of July.
Okay, and how long does it last? I think we covered it before, but we'll cover it again.
It is here July 28th through September 3rd-ish, somewhere between there. I know we have to pack up, but that's when it ends.
Okay, wonderful. And Stephen Poynor from the Holocaust Center. Who are you and what's your background?
Well, my name is Steve Poynor from the Holocaust Center. I am the Senior Director of Education and Community Engagement at the Holocaust Center. My background, actually, I started my trajectory in education with Orange County Public Schools and helped them to develop their Holocaust education curriculum for semester-long Holocaust courses. And eventually,
Were you teaching as well?
I was teaching as well. We had actually set up a large number of sections and working on the task force for the state of Florida and their Holocaust education curriculum development and standards, which the state has actually implemented over the past 3 years. Eventually transitioned, the position opened up at the center, and I moved over from the county into the museum full time.
Okay. When did that happen?
4 years ago.
Okay. Very good. Well, a couple questions for you both. Dr. Edwards, what are some of the programs that the library has planned during the exhibit?
For the exhibit, we actually...
It's several weeks.
It's several weeks, and so according to the grant, which Melissa has mentioned, that we got this exhibit as a result of a grant, there are 4 that we are required to host to meet the needs to meet the requirements of that. And so we're fortunate to have, with Stephen's help, a Holocaust survivor will be speaking with us. We have a college student and our archivist will be doing a session on uncovering history, like how would you track your own genealogy if you were interested to do that, and connecting that to newsprint and what was happening in the area around the time of the Holocaust.
Okay.
The next one is one called Media and Memory. Professor Elliot Kleinberg will be speaking on that and really extending that piece on how the media in the United States, and in Florida specifically, covered the Holocaust and what happened and how it was received and aspects like that. And then the last 2, well, actually there are 3 more. We're fortunate to have from the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum, Dr. Dion Afamato, who will be speaking on the voyage of the St. Louis. And the St. Louis was a ship that actually transported Jewish people. Stephen, correct me if I screw this up. It transported Jewish people looking for a safe passage. And I believe they attempted to go to Cuba and were turned away, and then came to Florida and were turned away as well. And so Dion will give like the real deep dive into that piece. It's a fascinating piece of that. And then we we'll have a facilitated dialogue reflecting on the Holocaust in terms of all the things we've covered up to that point. And then the last one, again, with Stephen's help, Dr. Michael Berenbaum, who is a world-renowned scholar on the Holocaust, actually helped to co-create the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum.
Wow.
And so that's a really big coup for us. And so those are the structured pieces of programming that we've put together for this event.
And those will be all here in the library
They're
and the
all,
theater?
actually, they're all going to be in the event center.
Oh, okay.
The majority of them will be in the event center. 2 of them will be here in the library, and you can see which ones are which on the calendar.
Okay.
If you go to the library calendar, there's a section in the drop down where it's like featured pieces, and it's the Americans in the Holocaust exhibit, and you can see the whole schedule, which date, who is where, and all of that.
Okay. And which reminds me, because I always like to mention that if you go to winterparklibrary.org/events, you will see everything that's going on at the library.
Yes.
And obviously including the Holocaust events.
Yes.
So that's very interesting.
Yeah.
So, Stephen, tell us a little bit about the collaboration that you're doing or your center is doing with the library.
Well, the collaboration, all the heavy lifting was done by Dr. Edwards and her team, really. I know we had developed some of the schedule initially in partnership with the idea that we would bring in Suzanne Schneider, who's, again, she's one of our local survivors, and we've had a relationship with her for quite some time. And we think that providing these narratives, these individual stories, is so key to understanding the impact and effect of the Holocaust on people. I happen to have some networking contacts through our organizations. We are we're called a Czech Center, which it's a Holocaust Consortium umbrella that works under the United States Holocaust Museum.
Okay.
That affords us speakers sometimes without having to have the expense always incurred, with the exception of Dr. Berenbaum. But we had the relationships in place. So originally, I think I was actually slated to present on the St. Louis, and I reached out, and Dr. Afamato is not just going to share this individual narrative. Her unique expertise is that she traced the journey of every individual passenger that left the St. Louis when the ship was turned away, what happened to every individual.
Wow.
She is the preeminent scholar on this topic more than anyone that we know of. So that's a lens that most people will not get to hear that perspective from unless they're attending this event.
Mm-hmm. Not to jump too much into the actual content of any of the topics or anything, but in the case of the St. Louis, where did it end up?
So the St. Louis wound up getting turned back to Europe, and then all of those passengers were absorbed by a number of countries that were ultimately invaded by the Nazis. There were over 900 passengers on the St. Louis, and more than a few hundred of them were ultimately murdered by the Nazis, and some that went back to England survived, but many did not.
Wow. Okay. Ruth, like all programs, I'm presuming that somebody needs to sign up for these via the website.
Yeah.
You just don't show up. You need to sign up, or you want to sign up.
Yeah, all of them are open to the public, and we do need you to sign up because of the seating capacity. The reason several of those are not in this building is because we anticipate exceeding the 90-seat capacity of the Edith Bush Theater. So we have moved them over to the event center. Our team over there has been gracious. Our partners, I should say, have been very gracious to give us that space. That will seat up to 250.
Okay.
And so we do need you, if you're interested in any of them, sign up for each one individually, because signing up for one is not going to automatically roll you over to everything else. You need to sign up for each one individually.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So and as far as the exhibit itself, beyond the presentations and the things in the exhibit hall or here in the what's it called, the exhibition center and our own theater here, what's the community? What can the community do? Can they get involved with these exhibits?
Oh, well, the exhibit itself will be on the first floor of the library.
Okay.
And we're talking from, if anybody is familiar with once you enter the library, the whole first floor on either side of that circulating staircase will contain the exhibit. And these are floor-to-ceiling panels. They are interactive, so there'll be an opportunity to touch a panel or touch a screen and get information on it. And so if you've ever been to the Holocaust Memorial Museum in D.C. and witnessed that, this is that exhibit. It's a traveling exhibit. And so we are, I believe, the last stop for this series of it. It's been traveling. It was supposed to start, it got interrupted during COVID. And so it started, I believe, in Delray Beach, I think about 3 or 4 years ago. So it's been in Florida before, but this is the last stop for the traveling exhibit and the last stop in Florida. And for the exhibit, people don't need to sign up. That's like coming into a museum. You walk in through either door, you get to interact with it, you walk through it, you engage with it, and get to see and experience what was this historic thing that happened in another country, but definitely affected folks who live in this country.
Mm-hmm. And that will be open and available during the entire
That's
course
open
of
the whole time. The library is open from,
Yeah.
like I said, July 28th through September 3rd.
Wow, what a marvelous educational gift for our community,
It is.
huh? I mean, to have this, and I think we've learned already this is the only stop in Florida.
Yeah.
This is phenomenal. But can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to add, Stephen or Ruth, before we close up this episode?
I just think it's fantastic. I think being selected, I believe there were many applicants
Yeah,
that
like
applied for
100.
this. Yeah, 100 applicants that applied, and Winter Park being selected was such a great
It's a huge
selection.
coup.
But it's because of all the hard work that they put into it. So I hope everyone comes out to see the exhibit and the programs.
Yeah, I think it'll be incredibly well attended.
Yeah. And I want to add one thing,
Yes,
because this
please.
occurred to me, and I'm glad it came back before I forgot again. This is a history exhibit. It's not religious, where there's no religious aspect to it. It is actually the history of the Holocaust and how Americans engaged or didn't engage with this historic event and what was happening and after.
Okay, very, very, very good to add that perspective. Well, again, thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Ruth. Glad to have you here. And Ruth will probably see you again. And Stephen,
Sure.
you're welcome back anytime.
Thank you so much for having me.
Maybe at the end of the or later this fall, we can talk about how the whole thing went.
Fantastic.
Would
All right.
love to. Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Americans in the Holocaust, a traveling exhibition for libraries, is made possible by the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum and the American Library Association. This special traveling exhibition for libraries is based on the original exhibition, which opened in April 2018 at the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum in Washington, D.C. during the museum's 25th anniversary. Americans in the Holocaust was made possible by the generous support of lead sponsor Jeannie and Jonathan Levine. Additional major funding was provided by the Bildner family, Joan and Alan of blessed memory, Elisa Spungen and Rob, Nancy and Jim, and Jane and Daniel Oak. The museum's exhibitions are also supported by the Lester Robbins and Sheila Johnson Robbins Traveling and Special Exhibitions Fund, established in 1990. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Books and Beyond from the Winter Park Library. This podcast would not be possible without the generous help and support from the library staff, and especially from Jeremy Zorn. Jeremy's official title is Public Services Librarian, but he does many things here at the library, including producing this podcast. We can't do this without you, Jeremy. Our theme music is from the song Don't Go by Bovine Joe and the Buffalo Herd. That's Herd spelled H-E-A-R-D. We hope you'll let your friends and others know about this podcast and that you'll come by the library for one of our offerings, which you can find at winterparklibrary.org/events. That's winterparklibrary.org/events. If you have questions or suggestions for the podcast or just want to talk about Books and Beyond, please send an email to podcast@winterparklibrary.org. That's an email to podcast@winterparklibrary.org. Remember that the Winter Park Library promotes the free and open exchange of ideas and does not attempt to control or take responsibility for any opinions that may be expressed in this podcast. Opinions expressed in this podcast do not constitute or imply an endorsement or a reflection of the library's policies or beliefs. This is Michael Werner, wishing you well until our next episode of Books and Beyond.